past 2 weeks, we've encountered many emotional events between the coronavirus, the world politics, and just recently the racial situation with George Floyd. And I'm sure many of us have listened to countless experts and movie stars and news media expressing their opinion about what they feel about all these situations. And I decided to do a little bit, take a different approach. My next guest is very, very special. And who is this guest? Was going to be the most important guest that I've had on my podcast, my mom. I'm Sam Lloyd, host of Red Chair Life podcast, and I would like to introduce the one and only Mommy. Mom, welcome to the Red Chair Life podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing just fine, Samson. I am delighted to be in your presence at this time.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Purpose.
Yes, yes.
You have in mind. I enjoy. We learn to live for you to grow to be what you have chosen to be in your life.
Ah, yes, yes. And I'm still trying to figure that out right now.
Well, you're precious, and I can't help but have that good feeling from within. You know how I believe in happiness come from within. We make our happiness.
Oh, yes,
from
absolutely.
Within.
Absolutely. Yes. You're so right about that.
Well, the lifestyle that your dad and me had with you made our happiness from within.
Okay.
Yes, we have cherished a lot of times and things that we have experienced when you came into our lives.
Right.
Vice versa. You came into our lives, or we came into your life.
Right. Now, talking
about take it any way.
Now,
so what?
Now, talking about lives, that's one thing that I wanted to talk to you about. For my listeners, my mom is 89 years old. And what that means is she was born in 1931, obviously in an era that to most people is completely foreign. But wanted to ask you, Mom, with all the events going on, especially with the George Floyd incident, based on when you were growing up, how do you see this George Floyd being much different from a lot of the racial tensions that you and Dad went through in the in the 1930s, 40s, 50s, and 60s? What do you think is different? Is it the same situation, just a different set of people, or have we kind of approaching this in a completely different way?
Okay. It's the same situation, black, white situation.
Right.
We were treated, I'll say worse, differently back then than we are now. The generations, I think, have made a small difference in the way that your daddy and me grew through than they are now. Back then, we didn't have very much or very many opportunities to do what these generations are doing now.
Okay, I see.
So we are very pleased, although Dad and me we grew to be on the same page as far as life.
Okay.
Your dad was in military for 31 years.
It's a long time.
He learned, yeah, long time. But during that time was not wasted. He
Okay.
learned how to deal with what he was and still is, a Black man.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
well, the
Black
interesting,
woman.
well, the interesting thing that you know, when you and Dad were growing up, like one of the new things, well, not the new things that a lot of young people feel is that they feel that Black people, young Black people, feel that they feel oppressed, and in terms of how they state it, I understand, but you and Dad went through an oppression where there was distinct, where you were not allowed to go to certain places, you were not allowed to get certain jobs. So there's a kind of a difference in terms of the feel for what the young people are stating that they're going through and what you're going through. I guess in some essence it's a bit relative, but until a lot of these young people, you know, went through what you and Dad went through with racial segregation, you know, lynching and all that stuff, their perspective is a little bit different, and I understand it. But in terms of your opinion, do you feel that young Black or people, Black people in general, are, you know, oppressed like you and Dad were when you were growing up, or is it a different way of being oppressed?
No, certainly not.
Okay.
Certainly not. Now, the brain power of these young people that are coming along now is very, very different from the brain power that your dad and me grew through back in that time.
Ah, okay.
It's much different. Now we were more not, yeah, I'll use the word afraid
Okay.
to make certain statements or use certain situation, mindset things to get ahead. Your dad made the decision. We got married as 17 and 18-year-old.
Oh.
Okay.
and
that was a beautiful age
right.
and stage when I look back on it now.
Right.
And
Before you start further, Mom, I want to tell our listeners that my parents have been married for almost 70 years. It would have been 1 month away.
70 years.
Before my dad passed away, but almost 70 years, which is mind-boggling.
70 years. 70 years.
Yeah, it's just crazy.
April 17th. The past year would have been 71 years.
71 years. Wow. Wow.
And you know what your dad always said, Samson?
What, Mom?
No break-in service.
Oh, right.
No break-in service.
Which is completely different from our society today. So like my mom and I used to have conversation. It was like, you know, Mom, have you ever thought of having, you know, divorcing Dad? And her response was, divorce, no. Murder, yes. Divorce, never. So it's a whole different, you know, generational mindset. But yeah, it's incredible that you and Dad were married for 70 years. Just incredible.
And you know where Dad is at this stage of my life and his.
Yes.
He's on the piano.
Yes.
He was cremated.
Right.
And we get the top often, Samson.
That's good. That's good. And
I
you guys
complain to him. I can complain to him anytime I choose.
Right.
Okay.
And he won't talk back.
No, he don't. He doesn't talk back.
Right. He used to always talk back. Always.
But in my upbringing, I was the one that talk endlessly. Okay?
Right.
I've always been a talker. Then I learned I need to be a little quiet sometimes so that I could listen. Okay?
Right.
And a lot of time listening is the best part of learning and growing up and
Ah,
going out
right.
into the world.
Right.
Okay, as you guys grew up and grew out, we loved each and every one of you the best that we could.
Right.
So what we did, we, between the two of us, we created uh, something that we felt good about.
Right.
Give you, uh, uh, if you get out there in that world, being a Black person, you are always able to come back home. And we call that the boomerang service.
Oh, yes. And it still
Boomerang.
continues. Now, 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 Mom,
You get out there and your wing get weak, or your wing falter, you
right,
can always come home
right,
to the bird nest. Your
definitely,
dad and me.
right.
Yes.
Now, I have
Yeah.
a quick question for you. Now, during the time that I was growing up with you, and even my other brothers and sisters, and just incidentally for the listeners that are not aware, I have two brothers and three sisters, and I am the sixth of the family. I was adopted when I was about 5 or 6 years of age, so there's a huge age discrepancy. My the next youngest to me, I'm 49. My sister is, I think, 63, 64. So all my brothers and sisters are officially
Okay.
senior citizens. The oldest is like 72, I think. But
Well, Sonia said, no way.
she's in denial.
She's not 72. She's 64. No.
Okay, but she still looks
Huh?
good. She looks like she's in her late 40s, early 50s. So she has very good
Well, you
genes.
know what, Samson? She is a replica from her mother
Yes,
and her
absolutely,
father.
absolutely. Right,
Yes, yes.
absolutely.
But she said on the side, she said, not 64, Mom, 63.
Oh, okay. That makes a difference. Now, talking about age, I have a quick question to ask you. Now, what would have happened if myself or any of your kids were caught in these riots stealing televisions for the sake of this racial incident? What would you have done to us back then if we had done something like that? You know, rioting and stealing TVs. What would have happened to us? Do you think?
I think for me, you would have to converse. We would have to come and talk with each other about what's going on in
Okay.
that scrambled egg
Brain.
brain of yours.
After the beating, though, right? After the beating, and then we would have had the conversation. So,
Because I know it's for a good cause. I know that, and I
right.
feel it. You
but
know,
but
we're
but
here in Denver.
yeah.
Go
But
ahead.
what's your opinion about that? I mean, I hear a lot of people. There's a lot of people that are saying, "Oh, you know, it's understandable." But what would happen if these rioters, like for example, came to your house, you know, through the rioting and stole your stuff and burned the house down? Would you have the same sentiment in terms of it's okay to destroy other people's property, or would you be very upset at the rioters coming to your place and destroying what you worked hard for?
I would be very upset
Ah,
if the
okay,
writers come to my property
right,
and upset it. I
yeah,
would be very upset. However, the wind tore down your mama's fence last night.
That's a side issue. We'll get it fixed, Mom.
But that was the work of the good Lord,
Yeah,
you
right,
know?
right.
However, I'm feeling that uh, something will have to be done
Yeah,
because all of these people are out there speaking their piece. Some
right.
of it is for different reasons.
Yeah, yeah. Oh,
Okay.
definitely. A
Uh,
lot of people are taking advantage of
I'm
the
in
situation.
awe about the times when we're going to start getting some payback.
Right,
I'm not getting anxious. I'm
right,
not an anxious person.
right.
But what's going on, we need to lower it somewhat so we can start getting some answers
Oh, definitely.
about, yeah,
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 yeah.
and take it a little bit easier
Right,
on what we're asking for.
right.
Okay? So I think it frightens me to think of certain decisions that was made by our president
Right.
bringing in the military that your dad had served for 31 years
Yeah.
to come
Yeah.
in here and make people behave.
Yeah.
I didn't like that.
Well, it's
Okay?
I hear two sides of the story, and I'm kind of 50-50. Yes, bringing the military is always bad, especially domestic, your own military coming in to control people. But at the same time, when the rioting continues, and it's not stopping, because what I find that's
I
very,
agree.
yeah, what I find that's very, very 100% accurate across the board is that most of the people that are encouraging this violence, rioting and burning the buildings down, supporting
Yeah,
the quote unquote, are these people that have jobs, that have a house, that are very comfortable. But what appears to be the trend is that as soon as the rioting comes into their house or their neighborhood,
yeah,
they completely
yeah.
change their mindsets, which, in my mind is very, very hypocritical. Either you support it and accept whatever consequences, but it seems that people are supporting it under the guise that as long as it doesn't impact their neighborhood, they're okay with it. But at the same time, the
Yes.
way I look at it, there's a lot of black business owners, that have absolutely nothing to do with this, and their businesses are being destroyed because of the riots. So what makes it acceptable, for this one person to do it, and then as long as they don't come to my business, it's very, very hypocritical in terms of how people are thinking. But that appears to be the observation of most of the supporters are behind this. The moment that their property or business gets destroyed, they change their mindset immediately. So that's why it's kind of, I don't know. It's like, for me, it's the purpose, but at the same time, it's like something just doesn't quite match the scenario in terms of you're either for it or you're against it. Absolute, not you support it as long as you don't come to my property. That's the thing. But on your
No,
side,
I don't.
huh?
On my side, I do not.
Oh, really? Okay.
I want to keep my property
Right, right,
and I
right.
want to have it nice and clear.
Yeah, yeah,
However, I feel very sad for
yeah,
the people who have worked all this time to make their property what it is,
yeah.
and they lose it
Right.
by someone that have scrambled egg brings it. You know, Sonia and Tara doesn't like my new vision, but
But
I've been into psychology for a
right,
long time,
right.
and my verse of all these things that are going on
Yeah.
in our society now is a scrambled egg process. That
Yes.
brain had gotten all scrambled. Now it's possible that we can get it back together again,
Right.
but we're going to have to make different uh, answer to the questions
Right.
that are asked for us to answer.
Yeah,
Okay, you get
absolutely.
that brain back together as a whole, and it either become a boiled egg or a fried egg all together. My point is, my point, Samson, is we are together.
Right.
You know, now everybody is coming up with their own process of thinking, of paying dues for
Right.
what they missed out
Right.
on how the white race have treated us all these years.
Right.
And, you know, I have a thing I share with Sonia, Tess, and Tara. Uh, it's not going to change today.
No.
It's
And
not going to change. And tomorrow.
and tomorrow either. So, that's what I think most people are expecting. You know, this profound change. And you've gone through, you know, most of your life, and it's you, and you've been through, you know, riots and stuff like that. Gone through the segregation. Um, my opinion is that, you know, racism has always, since the beginning of time, it's not a new thing set up for black people, whatever. You can get that straight. It's not a black only black. Racism has been around since the beginning of time, and my opinion is racism
Yes.
will probably be there long time after. It's just how we cope with it,
It
what
will
we accept or what we want.
always,
Yeah, it will always be there. That's my dad.
always,
Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what society you go through. Racism will always be there.
always. It's how we treat it,
Right.
how we handle it.
Yes. Yes.
You know, it has to be handled a certain way.
Yes.
This generation that's coming along now with you and the ones before, yeah, they're not going to put up with the nonsense that your dad and me put up in our
Yeah.
generation.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, you're
Okay,
right about that. Yes.
remember the theory your dad shared with you many times, and your brothers and sisters, we get on that ladder to success,
Right.
okay? Meaning that you get on that ladder in your mind that you are going to go step by step by step to whatever it is in that mind of yours
Right.
that you want to accomplish.
Right.
What you did, you climbed your ladder to success as far as we're concerned.
Right.
Okay? And with that being said, you could go higher and further depending on that mindset of yours.
Right.
Okay? But you're at the place where you can make things different.
Yeah.
You can
Definitely.
make part of the world different, Samson.
Right.
Okay? Because of, I think your scrambled egg has come more like a porch egg.
Coach Tay.
And
Thanks, Mom. That made me feel good.
no, you are a good example. I know you're not in the street
Right.
to make a difference. You're not that kind
Yeah.
of person, but you can get behind a desk and make a difference.
Right. Definitely.
Get it?
Definitely. And this is
Yeah.
why I wanted
Well,
to interview
your
you.
daddy was not. Your
Right.
daddy was not a physical person.
Well, I
You
mean, I
know
would
that?
say, I would say a little a difference. Yes, he was not physical in situations like this, but if his family
Yeah.
got threatened in any way, yeah, he will get very physical, very physical. If his family,
he could.
I'm the same way too.
Because
I see this rights. I'm doing my own thing too. There's some aspects that I agree with, some aspects I don't. But in terms of me right now, if a rioter can't threaten my family, my house, no, that has absolutely nothing to do with
exactly.
the situation. You will there will be backlash. So it all depends on how we take a look at it. Now, one of the things that
Family comes first.
oh, always, and
Family
yeah,
comes first.
yeah, yeah,
Yes.
that's good. Now,
This is this is so pleasurable. I never had this kind of interaction before. Normally it's on the telephone.
oh, okay. Well, you may be
Oh, you
popular,
had it
Mama. I'm going to
before.
put this on YouTube, so you might be popular, and all my listeners may want you back again just to get more words of wisdom.
I will be willing and ready.
Okay.
Okay?
Now,
Because I appreciate being 89 years old
right.
and as healthy as I am.
Oh,
I'm
definitely.
a very healthy minded person.
Right.
Okay? And I'm very proud of it, Samson.
Right.
So when I get out of bed every morning and stand on my 2 feet, I'm thankful. Then
Right.
I go and do all of my other stuff. And I'm even more thankful because I said, well, I'm at the stage, a lot of people that reach the level that I have reached and still going should be thankful as well.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
So it's something in my scrambled egg that says, go forward, girl.
Yeah.
Do
And
your wrong thing.
and that's a
And
statement.
I do
Yeah.
that.
And that's a statement that you've always pushed me. One of the big things that you've told me for my entire life is, life is all about choices. And
Of course.
even in this situation that people are going through, it's still, we hear people, if you're black, my life's ruined, or I'm oppressed because of the white man, et cetera, et cetera.
Whatever.
But ultimately, like you stated, it's still about choice. There are choices that you make that has absolutely nothing to do with the white man, nothing to do with, whoever you blame. It's your responsibility. Um,
Yes.
and the thing that you taught me growing up is, yes, there's, like you went through a lot of situations, you and dad went through situations that most young people couldn't even fathom. But at the same time, growing up, there's one thing that you made important. You always to stop and be grateful and thankful for what you have, regardless of what
Of course.
happens. Always. That's number
Of
one.
course.
you know and
Of course.
and one thing that I've noticed in this new generation, when I say new generation, like these millennials, and you and I have talked about it, is that they don't have any sense of thankfulness. It's more the opposite. It's more like the attitude that you owe us something. Well, what have you done for it?
Oh,
Nothing. Doesn't matter. You
yes.
owe us. So is that
Yes.
is that getting worse, you think, based on
Very
your observation?
unthankful. I think it may get worse with the people that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
These younger generations, they don't want to work
Right.
like you work.
Yeah.
And with dad, when he make an example climbing, it take time
Yeah.
to climb.
Right.
Okay, if you miss a step, you're gonna either fall down
Right.
or that egg scrambled egg gonna make another
Poor
decision,
decision.
or they may just wanna get out of the business
Right.
and drop on down to hell.
Right.
You know, that I can't stand it, I can't do it.
Yeah.
I think
Absolutely.
that's why a lot of our mental people having a problem. And I'll share with you really quick. I have had no problem staying in this house 2 or 3 weeks at one time.
Right.
Go no farther than the porch. I don't have a problem with it.
Right.
I don't know why. Maybe, maybe I'm just deteriorating to that point.
Right.
But I'm just happy as I can be right now
Okay.
with what the good Lord have helped my scrambled egg to come together and
Right.
praise Him
Right.
from the rooftop.
Yeah.
Praise God for all of our blessings.
And that's something that I've observed is becoming less and less. You know, I'm not a religious person. I'm spiritual. I believe there's a God. I know there's a Jesus, but it seems like there's less emphasis in terms of spiritual God. It's more on the me thing in this new society, which is some people say, you know, we don't need God. I say we do, but I think that's part of the problems when you take the moral structure of some kind of absolute, which in my opinion there is an absolute, and throw that away and get the human emotional side. It just gets more convoluted, more stress, more people that are just not
For that
happy.
person, for that person, you are right.
Yeah.
You're 100% right for that person.
Right.
But I have my own God.
Oh yeah,
I
definitely.
have mine,
Right.
okay? And I have my own way of thinking about how things are and how the decisions I need to make in order to journey forward.
Right. Right.
I have my own brain set for that,
Right.
okay? And I'm not going to spend my time listening uh, to that theory of people that have that kind of thought. I don't
Right.
have time for that.
Right. And that's the biggest thing that I see is that you know, I've grown up with a lot of, you know, different type of, you know, exposure to different religions, is that they do this mantra trying to brainwash you into thinking a certain way. And part of
Yeah,
that, I believe part of the reason why we're seeing a lot of this is a lot of young people realize this, or I hope they do, is that there's a point where it's like, no, we don't want to think that way. But at the same time, I do feel that there is some kind of apps. I mean, I don't know what that is, you know, but the one thing about our country, unlike a lot of countries, we have the freedom to express our thoughts. We have the freedom to worship whoever we want. Many countries
exactly.
don't have that freedom. I mean, if you
You're
think
right.
you're having problems here, you go to another country and
Exactly.
state something, and they'll execute you because. So that's one of the things.
Exactly.
That's one of the things why, yes, we have problems in our country. Apps, I agree with it.
Yes.
But most young people, you know, if you go to a lot of these other countries, they won't be. We have our problems, but it's nowhere even close
Yes.
to some of the things that when people are living where they are truly oppressed, where you make a statement that you don't believe in it, boof, you're killed. So
Exactly. Exactly. And I feel that these people need to be taught in a certain way that they don't have to have that feeling.
you're right. Yeah.
They choose, they choose to have it. And
Yeah,
by
you're right. Yeah.
choice, when
Yeah,
they
you're
have
right.
it, yeah, they
Yeah.
make that choice. And the hardest part, as far as my family is concerned, once they have that train of thought, it's like going back to school again. You have to teach, you have to talk day in and day out.
Yeah.
If you miss a day of teaching, that little mind boop, goes right back where it was in the beginning.
Yes. Very quickly too. Very quickly. Yeah, I mean, like I said, stated from our earlier conversation, I hope that the situation does subside. I think it'll still continue for a little while. It will eventually subside, but the only thing right
Of
now
course, it's going to.
is time. You know, time heals all. And incidentally, my mom has a very special importance of stressing time. And the reason I'm stating that is for the past, I want to say maybe 27 to 25 to 27 years, I have gotten a birthday gift. And you know what that birthday gift is? It's been a clock.
Well,
Many different kinds of clocks.
sure.
Big clocks, small clocks.
Sam shared your last visit with the clock
Yes, yes.
program. You know what? I know why I did it.
Right,
I felt that it would be a nice gift for you,
right,
Samson,
right.
because that clock never stops, does it?
No,
It
never.
goes round and round
Right.
and round.
No matter what
Right?
happens, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
So, in a way, Joe and me would talk about Samson and say, I think Samson may or may not have that mindset
right,
because he has shared with us at early stages of his life, he wanted a job and a
right,
job to pay him money.
right,
You said that to us many times, and money where you could buy whatever you choose to buy. Also, to come home and go skiing whenever, not when you chose to, but when you get a payday once a year or twice. Come back, run in here and say a quick hi to the family, and up to the slope, Samson goes.
except for this
Taking that
year,
little daughter with
right?
him. And
Except for this year, couldn't do it this year because of the coronavirus. It ruined the whole plan.
I know it. I know it.
Yeah,
And you had that way of thinking.
yeah,
You know that? Do you
right.
know the slopes were still open a long time after the virus came along?
Oh, really?
There were
Oh,
people
okay.
that still wanted to go up there and ski.
Right.
Open up about maybe a couple of weeks or
Yeah,
less.
yeah,
And there were people up there skiing.
right.
Okay, those were the people with the scrambled egg brain set that
Mine would have been scrambled too because I would have been up there.
if you had been here, I think you would have tried it. Yeah,
Right. Yes.
yeah.
With the mask, of course.
This has been um I'd say the most beautiful conversation with you, Samson, because I've never had this kind of conversation with you
Right.
before.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
this is the most beautiful one for me.
Well, we're going to have to do it again soon because I'm sure a lot of the listeners are going to be like, yes, we want your mom back.
You know what that man said, the preacher that eulogized this guy's um, eulogized his speech
Oh, well,
the other
what did he
day.
say? What did he
The
say?
the Reverend one.
Oh, I
He
don't know which one.
said about the mama position
Right.
in a child's life. You know,
Oh,
he
yes.
said this guy said, "Mama, I can't breathe," or "I can't breathe, Mama." He's saying that for a person, that mama can be the most important person in their lives.
Right. Yes.
He said, he's talking about the mamas.
Right.
He said, because that mama is the first person that you chooses to recognize whether it's good a not so good impersonal that
Right.
mama
Yeah.
is there.
Right.
Yes. And
Right.
I appreciate that sermon he gave
Yeah.
about this young man's early life
Right.
and his family. I thought it was well said
Definitely.
and well given to the people that was listening for this young man's lifestyle.
Okay. Yeah, that's powerful. It's so true. What you stated is so true, though. So true.
Yes, and we have to have that.
Yeah.
We have to give it very heavy thought
Yes.
about the position of that mama.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, Sonia came in here for
Okay.
whatever.
Well,
She may want you to shush up.
no, we're gonna follow up again because there's a lot of stuff that I might make this regular going forward. You know, in terms of getting mom's advice. What would mom say? That's the next show. What would mom say?
Please do. And I have my egg is not scrambled. I have a whole egg of conversation to share with you.
Okay. Well, mine's partially scrambled, but the more I talk to you, hopefully it'll become unscrambled.
All right, darling,
All
so I
right,
can
Mom.
share because I have a lot to share, Samson,
Okay, definitely. We will
and
definitely
a
continue
lot to
this.
be thankful
Oh,
for.
yes, yes. And the most of all, I'm thankful
And
for
you
you.
are one of the things that, you're not a thing. You are one of these situations in my life and your daddy's life that we are truly thankful for.
Yes. And I'm thankful for
Beside your
that as
sisters
well.
and brothers.
Right. Yeah. Thank
Okay?
you. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, dear.
All right,
Dearly
Mom.
love you.
I love you
Tell
too. And
Sam,
we will talk we'll talk again very soon. This is real exciting. I want to do this again very, very soon.